Hello. So basically, after a very, very long time, and actually talking to an actual electrical engineer, he actually looked at the circuit for me, and he kind of explained what the process is of the transistor. You see, so basically, yeah, hey, Sylvia, I got it to work. I got the what do you call it, the OptoInterrupter to work, and it wasn't really, I don't think it's my code, because I think it's working now. It was just the OptoInterrupter. I wasn't setting it up right. And actually, the directions that I was told, I don't think they were correct. But let me explain. So basically, we hit the 200 ohm. We put the 200 ohm right next to the second one, number 2, the second pin. We put 3 volts here, and we put a ground on the 4. That's all correct. But the idea is you need a resistor in here with a 3 volts. Why? Because now the way the transistor works, I got to learn a little bit from the person that came in. Basically, the base right here, if we're interrupting it, this is what he said. This is something according to what he said. If I recall correctly, basically, if you have an interruption here, this becomes an open, right? Now, when you don't have an interruption here, and you're basically, I think, feeding from the base to the emitter, something like that, because this is NPN. Basically, the idea is this becomes, it's a switch, it essentially acts like a switch, and it goes through. That means you're going to drop 3 or whatever, 5 volts, whatever you have here, 5, and you're going to go to ground. So you're going to drop 5 volts across the resistor. The problem is in the instructions, what we were doing is we were just attaching a pin there. Now, if you're attaching a pin there, you're always going to read 0, because when if we're interrupting, we're going to have 0 because it's attached to ground, and if we're not interrupting, we're still going to have 0 because there's no voltage source. Now, it's a transistor on the other side. This is I think just a light emitting diode. This is a transistor, and it's a photo transistor, right? So it needs basically a voltage source on this side too. All this acts like is a switch, if I'm not mistaken. So you can't do that, what we were basically trying to do. I mean, neither can we basically just hook 3 volts here and put the pin B here either. Because if this is open, then you have 3 volts, fine. But when you have when you have this closed, you have it. It's basically, it's going to be 0 because the 3 volts is right next to it. There's nothing to drop voltage across here. And we were reading 3 volts here, and we didn't have, we had the pin B. It turns out that I think the 3 volts was powering up the board then because it was attached to it. So when we were off, the board was on. Something crazy was going on. So when we introduce a resistor, all we got to do then is basically, if we put a pin B right here, if it's open, we have 5 volts because there's no current around here, no voltage drop on the resistor. Wherever you put the pin B, you're gonna get the 5 or 3 volts or whatever. But now when it's closed, meaning this is going through, then what you're gonna have is basically a 3 volt drop on here, and then I guess if the pin is actually at the very end right here after the voltage drop on the resistor, it's gonna read a 0. So you're gonna have 3 or 0. So he basically set up the circuit, but after explaining to me that I kind of messed it up again, and then I just had to reconfigure this blue wire. I forgot that this is the blue wire, I think, where the pin 4 was, and I think it works now. So he set it up, and I kind of broke it, but then this was just a problem. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate that the interrupt for the pin change B, port B, pin 4 is working. So first off, we have something very interesting going on. We have current here. Okay, so so everything looks good. Give me 1 second. Okay,